The whole idea of development is for people to realize their dreams and aspirations. This includes people who do not have voices, community people who are illiterate, community people who are women, who are children, who are marginalized. All these people count when you think of development of a nation.
Africa flourishes with natural resources, and these resources have brought in hope and aspiration for people all around. But what does it mean to be directly affected by the mineral activities? Here are 3 stories, unfiltered, of people affected by mining activities. Their lives, struggles, and coping mechanisms are different, but here are their voices. Sometimes you need to know the truth before you expose the lies.
Parce qu'on disait que c'est le diamant qui servait à alimenter la guerre. Je n'ai pas compris. Parce que nous avons été des victimes.
Sometimes you need to understand the pain before you find the cure.
Ghana gas line about dame. Asasi shua, no mehina, more Judy Aguno, a bear day, the menya assassin for 4, because I assassin, or Martoma Nihinasa.
And sometimes what you need is perspective before you can rise up to make change.
Over time, working with affected communities, I have learned that respecting their space and having them own ownership of what we're doing goes a long way.
In 2002, Côte d'Ivoire broke out in a civil war. In 2005, the United Nations Security Council discovered that the rebels used money from diamond sales to finance violence and purchase arms. These diamonds are known as conflict diamonds. To stop the sale of conflict diamonds, the UN imposed an international trade embargo on all diamonds from Côte d'Ivoire. Tortilla and Séguéla were dramatically affected by the embargo.
À Tortilla est un tout. Vous allez voir même un enfant de 5 ans à Tortilla qui peut vous définir le diamant. Il sait ce qu'est le diamant. Et vous le mettez avec beaucoup de cristaux, et il va te retirer le diamant. Chacun arrivait à vivre au mieux comme il pouvait le penser.
C'est là maintenant, j'ai eu l'amour du diamant, ce qu'on appelle communément la fièvre du diamant. Comme je suis venu ici, j'ai vu le diamant, ça apportait un peu d'argent aux gens. C'est tout le monde qui faisait, il n'y avait pas de parcelles. Donc c'était le départ des sociétés qui étaient sur place. On ne peut pas dire qu'on est riche, mais quand même, on arrivait quand même à nourrir notre famille, à subvenir aux besoins des enfants qui vont à l'école, à s'occuper d'eux. On n'a pas de problème en ce temps.
In effort to remove the embargo, the government welcomed international support, including the USAID's Property Rights in Artisanal Diamond Development Program.
Le grand effet de l'embargo, dans un premier temps, c'était que l'existence de financement légitime s'est arrêtée complètement avec le départ des bureaux d'achat. Et cela a eu un grand effet sur les artisans miniers parce qu'il y avait plus de moyens pour pouvoir préfinancer leurs activités. Un deuxième effet, après cela, c'était que les prix, c'est-à-dire les revenus des artisans miniers, a beaucoup baissé pendant cette période.
Je ne sais pas pourquoi. Je ne sais pas trop pourquoi. Parce qu'on disait que c'est le diamant qui servait à alimenter la guerre. Je n'ai pas compris. Parce que nous avons été des victimes. L'embargo a fait que chacun de nous aujourd'hui a amorcé quand même une certaine pauvreté.
Bon, nous-mêmes, on ne comprenait rien. Seulement les Argentins qui étaient sur place sont rentrés. Qui nous a nui. Il y a eu des familles disloquées. Il y a des enfants déscolarisés qui ne vont plus à l'école. Des divorces, des maladies. Parce qu'on ne pouvait plus s'occuper de nos familles. On ne peut plus s'occuper de nous-mêmes à cause de cet embargo-là. Bon, nous qui ont la famille avec nous ici, qu'on n'a pas le moyen de bouger, on est resté sur place.
The country also worked with the Kimberley process, the international body that aims to prevent conflict diamonds from entering the international market.
En 2002, quand il y a eu la crise, les deux zones qui produisaient du diamant, Tortilla et Séguéla, se retrouvaient dans la zone nord. Et quand il y a eu la crise, l'administration a quitté les zones. Donc l'administration n'avait plus de contrôle sur les zones. Et chaque fois, quand nous nous sommes rendus sur le terrain, ils nous ont dit, mais il y a eu la guerre, ce n'est pas de notre fait. Nous sommes des populations, nous vivons ici. Nous n'avons pas cherché la guerre. La guerre nous a trouvés et on ne comprend pas pourquoi nous sommes punis pour la guerre qu'il y a eu en Côte d'Ivoire.
Une des raisons pour lesquelles peut-être certaines communautés minières disent que, ils ne maîtrisaient pas comment ça se passait, ils étaient juste là, c'était parce que l'implication de ces différentes rebelles, si vous voulez, de ces différents acteurs, était à un différent niveau de la chaîne de production et de commercialisation.
Puisque le diamant, c'est une ressource qui n'est pas renouvelable. Voir comment faire profiter les communautés et aussi diversifier leurs sources de revenus.
Il y avait un grand travail de sensibilisation mené par le gouvernement pour convaincre les acteurs de se conformer au système d'identification, d'autorisation et de traçabilité de la production depuis la mine jusqu'au point de premier achat.
In April 2014, after a Kimberley process review, Côte d'Ivoire was found to have closed all gaps and fulfilled the regulation requirements on all diamond mining activity.
Bon, comme on n'a pas vu l'effet des nouvelles régulations, tout ce que nous on demande, c'est demander aux géologues de nous montrer de nouveaux sites pour délivrer des parcelles à des villages pour qu'on puisse avoir des exploitations. Sinon, le diamant ne sort pas.
Je comprends leur impatience parce que ce sont des communautés qui nous ont vraiment aidés, qui ont contribué à la levée de l'embargo parce qu'elles nous ont soutenus, elles ont appliqué toutes les consignes que nous leur avons données. Elles ont accepté de se faire enregistrer et elles ont tenu des cahiers de production. Ils sont tous enregistrés à ce jour dans la base de données que nous avons au sein du service de l'évaluation. Donc, elles s'attendaient à avoir une certaine récompense juste après la levée de l'embargo.
Et attendre qu'un jour, je dis toujours que, quelle que soit la longueur de la nuit, le jour viendra. Et un jour, le jour est arrivé aujourd'hui. Maintenant, nous attendons que des financements, des aides de tous côtés pour qu'on puisse reprendre. Il y a encore du diamant à Tortilla. Ça, je le répète, je le dis toujours. Il y a toujours du diamant encore à Tortilla.
J'ai dit, le diamant, c'est une question de sens. Souvent, ça marche, souvent, ça ne marche pas. Donc, j'espère mes enfants qui vont à l'école, qu'ils apprennent qu'il y a autre métier qui n'est pas le diamant.
Sometimes, those in power make promises to communities, keeping their hope alive, but never following through. But in most of these cases, the promises have not been fulfilled. And in those communities, it is only their perspective that keeps them going.
And can de na bibia you okay. We say me to many akuma to me na Ghana gas line no bad dame asasi so a no me hina mo adwiri agu no say you free me te na say bomb eti a na che say me wu ano no.
The gas pipeline is situated at Atuabo in the western part of Ghana. It moves from there to the Elemble district and then it goes on through the Ahanta districts and then cuts to the Abuazi area. So it's running through about 4 major districts to get to the source that is being tapped for energy. And this energy is not going to benefit the communities in Atuabo or Elembele or any of the Insamal communities, the Ahanta communities, but it's going to promote the interests of industry.
Ebe day na menya asase foforo because asase o matama na hinasa.
People who lose their land to the oil companies as a result of the projects that are being developed to produce oil are given compensation.
The reality is that people are farmers, they are fishermen, living in the comforts of their environment, having everything that they needed to survive. And now you come with an investment which government is pushing as an agenda for development. At the end of the day, what we realize is that we are losing our livelihoods as community people. We are losing our forests, we are losing our clean environment, we are losing our water bodies, we are losing even the dignity that we have as people because our cultural systems are being destroyed.
Contractors from the government offered Paulina $500 for the ownership of her farmland. She received no compensation to relocate.
Almost this kind of man, Abojo ama. A minimum quantity, almost to almost check no attorney. Media manyanisa, Mejanisa, because mentally I buy and Tremanso.
The compensation might not be able to sustain the person for the rest of his or her life. And therefore, there's a need for the company that's acquiring the land to work towards provision of alternative livelihood. As part of our community relations and social investment policy, we have a provision that people that lose their land through the oil and gas activities, the companies are obliged to provide alternative livelihood.
So maybe I didn't clampo. Yakopa natural me say, Memfa Monko Wurum. Nam say a poor fan. Naminya Bimfa Uncamano. So now almost on Tershi. Mechin, sir. Matisse a quacusano. Almost to me bois a man and fasoba a man for a braboso. Ba, and he say, me dream quite chilly. I got name himself for no. Almost betcha, sir. I got a daddy. I come at 200 more. Sanka Mokonti Asia. And now Ghana gas line. O mother say, Assassi ya, Metissi ya. Nanka, oh, push it forward. As any macoya or buy the Maca, as I'm children. A boom say, be am your benefit. Omakasam.
I perfectly agree that there are so many people who may not have access to this information, and therefore they may not be aware of their rights when they are facing such a situation. It is because of that that the Petroleum Commission put the responsibility clearly at the doorstep of the international oil companies that are acquiring such land, to make sure that before such acquisition, they submit a clearly defined program, one, to compensate them for the loss of the land, and also provide alternative livelihood for them.
Just Sisia, Semen Kita Kratabia. Mfunina, Muchuano, or Manfa Bakurambo, mammy. Anna, no matter say, Diania, or more China picture, or more de Mayano. I dream, Mamma, my photocopy. Ibia, Abamaka say, make it a cratenity. Now I'm so sad, minutes ago, I am a never for a gay, and I just say, me a day. Because many men be maybe obedi menim abaka sa asemi ya mame. I don't know, I am say a trim motion back. Omo na so say enter my only brain and no. Power baba daddy nim. Enti that many brese mesanya akwa foso onkrofo no. So omo tuye misika mamia na metu free anso omo ba omo nya hwe na che say ma set omo free di ayo musa ne misin kan kurampo Neshe mebufu ne se wa ba se masase wa ka chem se medano wo ba betu mafrem na ka watu ya misika mamia anka ba bia me anka sa me de misika ba kwa mbenya dan adem no saka na to mame chese wo mpese metena wiase ahwe monkwada o pese ma na monkwada ina yewu enti ndi ya she mebufu pa.
Paulina is currently living in her home, but can be moved out any day. Can one person go up against the government and big business and show that there is indeed a path to bettering our communities? In Nigeria, the answer is yes. But first, one needs perspective.
I read on the newspaper, and it was all over television, that due to the effect of unsafe mining, 400 children died in Zamfara state. Then in 2012, I did a bit of research on what has happened for the past 2 years. And I found out that a community called Bagega is yet to get government intervention. The source of livelihood in this community was agriculture. But due to the effect of climate change, most of them have left agriculture to alternative, which is mining. When we first visited households and mining site, usually the miners bring the extract to the household and have their wives and some of their children join in processing. So what they do is use the mortar and pestle to crush it and wash the crushed soil in their households. With the intervention of Follow the Money, Global Rights, the Zamfara Emirate Council, Doctors Without Borders, we have been able to transform how people perceive gold mining and how better to mine this gold so that they, first of all, don't contaminate the environment and have their children fall sick and die.
That will be a goal kick. Global Rights made an assessment visit to Zamfara. We found that there were medical interventions, but there was no one looking at Zamfara from a human rights perspective. The host communities had no idea what their rights were. There's a lot of confusion about the responsibility of government with the state level or the federal level.
What we need from the community is the cooperation, and that they should be able to imbibe whatever knowledge government is trying to impart into them for their own safety and for them to sustain their livelihood.
Muna roƙon gwamnati ta zo ta share mu wannan ƙasar saboda kama daga gubar dalma ta zo ta samu wata sabon ƙasa.
Whether large-scale mining or artisanal mining, government has a responsibility to regulate the mining sector because mining is not an environmentally sustainable activity, and also because mineral resources are not renewable. And when you think about the devastating effect mining has on people, you must regulate the sector. And where government has failed to regulate the sector, it fails to protect the people and has violated their rights.
The challenge we have as government in trying to impart all of this knowledge to the local communities in the gold mining areas of the country is purely nothing else than language challenge. Because all of this group of persons speak one language, Hausa. So if you must impart your knowledge into them, then you have to get either a colleague of mine who is an Hausa-speaking fellow to do the interpretation, or I engage an interpreter to do that.
Up to 25% of Nigerians speak Hausa. Girls and boys learn English in Bagega.
I'm tired sitting down in my comfort zone complaining about how my government is not taking responsibility. And I felt that I needed to take a bold step. I needed to reach out to my peers, to my immediate community, to other activists out there, not just to sit down and post on Facebook or on Twitter about how government is not being responsive, but actually connecting to communities that don't even know what Twitter or Facebook is, empowering them with information so they can even approach their own local government and take responsibilities for their actions.
We are in compound 209.
Zone C.
Tapping into the gold mining sector would put Nigeria on a pathway to diversifying its dependable economy on oil and gas. And this would help reduce poverty rate and of course empower artisanal miners. So this will help local and state government to be financially independent from the federal government, which is central. And this would help them generate internal funds that would help develop their society. Visiting the proposed safer mining site, I saw that the machines have been installed, but not properly installed. I found out that the borehole that was supposed to be installed was not installed. It got me really angry, knowing that millions of naira has been put into that project, which made us visit the contractor yesterday to ask how have you spent the money allocated to you for this community.
Gaskiya ta yi kyau sosai. Abu ai ba magana. Tana nan tana jin daɗin ta yallaɓai. Kai karan kanka na san za ka yi farin ciki ganin yadda take jin daɗi. Gaskiya kai ka kasance mahaifi ne sa a yallaɓai wallahi.
Now become part of this community. Over time, working with affected communities, I have learned that respecting their space and having them own ownership of what we're doing goes a long way, most especially when they have an opinion on a specific issues. It's their society, it's not ours. We're just there to give a hand and also to take a hand, because once these two hands join together, then we can work to build a better community. Our first time in 2012 was devastating for us, but 2.5 years afterwards, leveraging on the social media platform, engaging policymakers and our government, and most importantly, our mass number of young people, we've been able to provide access road to the community of Bagega. We've been able to get our government to renovate their schools and provide them with computers so they can be in tune with what's happening in the society. We've been able to tell and teach the people how to hold government accountable and how to know who a good leader is. Because over time, it's important that the people should move out in masses and elect representatives that would actually represent their interests in every aspect of governance. Working together with them, we have now built the kind of community we want to see for ourselves and the children that are yet unborn here in Bagega.
How can you make the future you want to live? What does it take for a community to live up to its potential? What does it take for a group of people to fight back against the people entrusted to take care of its needs? In Ghana, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, across Africa, and indeed across the world, citizens who some may see as powerless are showing that within each of us is the ability to make great change and create the future they dream of. That power is in your hands.